5 middle game chess principles you must know. The middle game can be an extremely confusing and daunting place for all levels of chess players, especially beginners. In this video, I'm going to give you 5 tips you can use to improve your chess understanding and, most importantly, to beat your opponents with. I recommend that you get a notebook out for this guide, and without further say, I hope you enjoy. So the first thing comes to moving pawns in front of your king. Most of the time in chess, you will want your pawns like this. You will kind of want a pawn structure like this, right? Sometimes you want to play h3 because there's a bishop here. There's a bishop here and you want to kick it away. Okay, that's fine. Or say it goes somewhere else. That's fine. But apart from that, you kind of just want your pawn structure like this. Even playing h3 can weaken squares. See, it weakens your king. It weakens your king now because it weakens this diagonal. Now, I'm going to show you some other pawn structures that could be really bad. You don't really ever want to play a move like f3 because now, say there's like a bishop here. Say there's a bishop here. Now the bishop can come here and check. And this is a very weak diagonal now. You don't want to expose your king like this. So moving your pawn in front of like that is pretty bad. I'm going to also show you some other ones. This pawn structure can be good. As you can see, there's weak light squares here. But normally you want to have this structure if you've got a light squared bishop. But let me show you some other structures that I commonly see beginners have. So they might play like a move like g4. First of all, this is extremely weakening. Or maybe just to make it a bit more realistic, they might go f3 to kind of support this pawn. Or they might something like this. Yet you really just don't want to move your pawns in front of your king. If you can do that, if you can just keep all your pawns kind of intact like this, maybe play h3. Maybe if your opening is a free and chattel opening, keeping it like this. But you don't even want to do something like this, because look how many squares it weakens now. For example, black can get a king here and a bishop here, and it's very deadly. So it's stuff like that. That's the first thing. That's the first tip. Really pay attention to where you move your pawns in front of your king. I'm just going to say this, especially in front of your king, because when I see beginner games, all I see is there's no king safety. Remember, number one principle is king safety, and this just definitely applies to the pawn structure. So the first thing is try pay attention to your pawn structures. I'll show you another one here. Weak, double isolated, and isolated. You really just want your pawn structure like this. Okay, so that's my first one for you. Right, tip number 2 is focus on the center. Now, I'm sure you've heard this before, but I'm going to really try to break down why it's important to focus on the center and how focusing on the center will win you a lot more games than you actually realize you're capable of winning. So first of all, the center, I'm going to say, is this. Is these 4 squares, and then you almost have like the kind of outer center, so this. So you might be wondering, why on earth would you want to control the center? Well, so you want your opponent's king, right? And if you've got all your pieces located in the center, you have the most options. You can have an attack on this side of the flank. You can launch an attack on this side of the flank. Say if you've got all your pieces concentrated here, it's going to be a lot harder for you to kind of do anything in the center. It's going to be a lot harder for you to do anything on this side of the board. When you're in the center, you control most of the battlefield. If you're fighting a war, you want control of the most important parts of the battlefield. That would normally be the center, just like in chess. You want to control this because you have the most options. You want to checkmate your king, and by having your pieces in here, you can launch way more attacks. So that's why having your pieces in the center is very important. So I'm just going to show you. So I just want to say just a little story so this can be a bit more relatable for you. When I was first starting playing chess and I was a beginner, I can definitely tell you you kind of have those switch moments in chess. You kind of have that piece of understanding. You go, okay, I understand this now. And you almost look at every single game differently. If you focus on the center, if you try and make sure every single move is with the aim of you going towards controlling the center, you will improve. I just want to say one thing as well. You may hear tactics a lot. Tactics, I promise you, if you look at all the tactics you see in your game, or all the tactics you see, maybe from master games, the people who have the successful attacks in chess, the people who have successful tactics running, they always control the center, because tactics run from superior positions, and having control of the center would make your position superior. Let me show you something. This is a game between Magnus Carlsen and an international master. So I'm going to show you. So I'm sure you've heard of Magnus Carlsen, and let's see how the world champions play chess. Let's just notice that every single move works towards controlling the center. Even this move, even his opponent, very strong opponent by the way, Ivit Samara. I'm not sure if I said his name right, but very strong player. Notice how these masters play chess. Every single move, look, it's controlling this, it's controlling this. This is even solidifying this square. So every single move, as you see, checking the king, every single move is located at controlling the center. Now you might think maybe bishop b5, what? That's not really controlling the center, is it? Well, you got to ask yourself, it pins this from controlling the center. So now this knight here doesn't control the center anymore, temporarily, because his bishop is pinning it. So it's things like that. Look, so after takes, now look, Magnus takes a piece that wasn't controlling the center, and it's taking him away. So if you can just see how now he's targeting weaknesses, but as you'll see, controlling the center, tactics run from superior position. See, as you see, pause the video. Who controls the center here? Is it white or black? Well, to me, I'm not sure. It looks like Magnus is controlling the center, and as you see, there's a winning tactic for Magnus here, and he finds it. Just this winning tactic appears because Magnus has a superior position because he controls the center. So as you see, Magnus goes on to win this game, lovely, because all the tactics just work, because he controlled the center first. So if you kind of see, so if you're kind of in the middle game, you're not sure what to do, just try control the center. Is your opponent piece defending the center? If it is, how can you get it away? See, this knight is controlling the center here, so Magnus doesn't want it doing that, so he pushes it. It's things like that. Start doing that and you will definitely improve. Third tip is keep your pieces defended. This is one of those concepts that I think is extremely important, and I think if you actually understand, it will really help your chess. It will really help you kind of going from beginner to amateur. It's kind of keeping your pieces defended. It's just kind of one of those even concepts where even with life, it's like, even when like animals are hunting, say they're hunting and there's a pack of something, it will go for the weak link, it will go for the isolated thing. So if your pieces are kind of weak, they're kind of isolated from your camp, they're going to be a lot easier, they're going to be very vulnerable to tactics. So that's kind of one of those things. So I'm going to show you an example of why you need to keep your pieces defended. Before anything, right, before this move, I just want to ask you a question. Try work out, tell me what pieces are undefended here. There's a little exercise for you. You could just have it in your brain. Make a little mental note. What pieces are undefended here? So, let's have a look. So first of all, this knight is undefended. This knight is undefended. This bishop's undefended. Okay. So, as you can see here, white goes queen b5. Okay, so it's hitting this knight and it's hitting this bishop. Both undefended, right? So now, black tries to save his knight. Oh yeah, I've saved my knight now. So now this cannot be taken. Oh no. This knight wasn't, if this knight didn't go out like this, just undefended, and this bishop was kind of in a safer square, this wouldn't have happened. This happened so many times. I promise you, I look through so many games, so many kind of lower rated games, and there's pieces hanging everywhere. Now, when I say hanging, when you hear hanging, you might think, oh, okay, there's kind of I've just left a free piece and my opponent can take it. No, these pieces are hanging. Before anything, this is hanging, is weak. You have to have that mentality if you want to progress as chess. So, my third tip is for you, is don't leave your pieces undefended. So, the fourth thing is pay attention to weak squares. I promise you, if you can start understanding weaknesses, it will take a while, to be fair. So give yourself time, allow yourself to kind of, have a bit of time before you fully understand it. But I promise you, try understanding weak squares. It will really help your chess. I'm going to give you an example here. In this position, I've got this. I just want to kind of try to teach you something. As you can see here, these two pawns are weak. They're doubled. We've got two doubled pawns here. We've got a backwards pawn. Try start learning what the different pawn structures mean. So for example, this is a backwards pawn because it's the furthest back. This is a backwards pawn because there's no more pawns to support this. These are doubled pawns as well. So when the pawn structure is not very good, things open up. It's kind of like the good moves come from good positions. So here I go knight d5. This is a weak square. This is a weak square. The pawns play a big role in weak squares. Start understanding weak squares. You see this d5 square. Why? Try to ask yourself, why is this weak? Why is this square weak? Because no pawns can attack it. This is called an outpost. No pawns control this square. This square would be weak. If I was to ever push this pawn up, this is weak because I support it now. So you've got to look at things like that. Once you understand something is weak, then you can then try, like I just did, to find ways to make a support post and make an outpost. But that's my fourth thing, is start trying to understand weak squares. This is weak, this is weak. I promise you, keep at it, keep learning. Weak squares, that's a really big thing. I mean, it's maybe a bit tricky, to be fair. So the other things will be maybe a bit easier to understand, but this is really kind of, if you really want to try get to the amateur, kind of keep going up the ladder, this will be one of those things you will need to understand. So the final tip now, and this is really important actually, and this is almost psychological, and I'm going to show an example, and this one will really help you, and this was a very hard one for me to kind of overcome. It's be patient. I'll show you an example of me back when I was 1000 rated playing a game, and I'll just show you an example of how I was impatient. I mean, I definitely think patience and composure is a massive difference between rating levels. For example, my composure and my patience is what separates me from the lower rating down. And also, say someone who's higher rated from me, their patience and their composure is better than mine. That's why they're better at chess than me. That's why they're higher rated. So, I'm going to show you an example of patience. Be patient in the middle game. I'm going to show you an example, even from the get-go. With my queen, I'm always just trying to win pieces. I moved my queen about 100 times. I'm always trying to win pieces. Be patient. You need to get your other pieces into the game. Not every single move you play needs to attack a piece or have a threat. You can simply develop just normally. That's something that I really struggled with, and maybe you're relating to this. You just find that every single time you're playing chess, you're trying to just threaten a piece. You're trying to cheapo. No. Remember what I tell you. Control the center. If you control the center, get a good position, tactics will flow, start an attack. That's how you win chess games. Your opponent will stuff up. If you do summarize it, is be patient. It's a big one, and it will really help if you can get good at it. For my 5 middle game tips for you. Hopefully you liked this video. If you did, please like and subscribe, as it would be much appreciated. And I wish you the best on your chess journey. Have a good day.